All right. Jerrod Johnson, welcome to the Elite 11 podcast. Before we begin, I just want to give the listeners a quick rundown of your resume. You are a husband, a soon-to-be girl dad,
Yes.
Texas A&M quarterback from 2007 to 2010. You finished your career at that time as the Aggies' all-time leader in passing yards and total offense. We had you as an Elite 11 counselor in the summer of 2010. And then after that, you began an NFL journey, right? Going from 2011, I believe, to 2016 with Eagles, Steelers, Seahawks, Bears, Ravens, Cowboys. And I think there were a couple of USFL stops and other places kind of in between there, right? So quite a football journey as a player. We then had you, on the Elite 11 staff, obviously, for the past, I want to say 8 years. I'm trying to recall back, and we'll talk about that a little bit, kind of your first coaching experience with us. And then from there, you transition into a full-time coaching path in the NFL. All right. Indianapolis, quality control for 2 years. And then last year as the Minnesota Viking assistant quarterback coach. And most recently, as we're taping this, I want to say right about a week ago, right? You're now the newly named quarterback coach of the Houston Texans, right? So exciting to be going back home. You were born and raised Humble, Texas, right? Right outside of Greater Houston, and coming home and completing the journey as the Texans quarterback coach. So anything we missed there on the resume?
No, I think you got it all, man. I mean, it's crazy to hear it kind of said back because sometimes you just forget about it, but to hear it said like that and to think about all the different stops and every time you mentioned something, a memory came to mind, and so I think I have a very unique football journey, man, and I'm thankful for all of it, the ups, the downs, and I love the game, I love this position, and everybody has a football story. Everybody, I think, in this profession, if you work in football, you work in sports, you have your personal story. And I mean, a part of that means I'm getting old, because there's a lot of chapters to it, but it's been fun, man. I've been blessed, got to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, man. And I've been very fortunate. I've learned a lot. I've met a lot of great people, but I think the thing about it is the relationships and people I've met along the way is what it's all about. I've been very fortunate to work with some great people at every level, with the game I love, with the position I love. And it leads me to where I am now, where I get to work in my hometown, with my new forming family and for a great organization. And so life doesn't suck, man. I'm very thankful. And like Yogi always says, man, how great is ball? So,
yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe just what a complete circle for you and being able to come into this year, right, and land this Texans job as you're an expecting father and starting your family and being able to be back home during this time. And, we all know how tough it is, right, to be the football wife and for you guys to just be able to start your family there in your hometown. It must just be such an amazing kind of full circle to be able to have this opportunity as all these other life things are happening for your soon to be growing family, right?
Yeah, man. My wife Brady is a total rock star, so she's pumped, and she gets to keep her job here. And of course, my mom was, when I told her that I got the job, her first comment was just, she started crying with the thought that her grandbaby was going to be, born in Houston. And I was like, well, I got a promotion as well, but yes, your granddaughter will be safely, not too far down the road. But yeah, man. So it's exciting times, man. Exciting stuff.
Yeah. So, and then you talked about your football journey, right? So I'll start it off just with having some fun with this. We have a couple pictures we dug up, right, from back in the archives. Check out these, high school and college shots we have of you, and thinking about everything you just touched on, kind of your journey, right? As a now 34-year-old, savvy vet of this game, both as a player and a coach, what advice would you give your 17, 18-year-old version of Jerrod Johnson if you had the ability to go back in that time machine, right, and go back to 2006 as you're maybe heading into your senior year, and what would you tell high school senior version of a JJ with everything you now know?
I would say just work hard. Of course, work hard, but just make sure you're absolutely present in the moment. I think a lot of times guys who are driven, if you're chasing after something, if you're chasing that starting spot, chasing a championship, all those different things, just make sure you are present in all those moments. Take some time to stop and cherish and enjoy where you are, and really just worry about the day that you're in and what you got to do that day to get a little bit better, because before you know it, that those days are gone, but the big thing is, I think, is if guys focus on that day, not only will you become a better player by thinking one day at a time, but I think you really dive into those relationships and just all those sprints, all those gassers where you're throwing the ball with your dad, quarterback lessons, workouts, all those different things, man. I just cherish all of those because, I mean, it goes by fast and before you know it, it's gone. And so just really cherish those moments and embrace everything about playing the game, but more so embrace the people that you're around because, there's nothing like it.
That's great advice. I think especially like looking back to your senior year of high school, right? There's you played at the highest level. There's really nothing that kind of replicates even that senior year, right? And I'm assuming I didn't have the opportunity to play high school football in Texas either, but the Friday night lights in Texas football and just, you hope that kids are be able to be present in that time, right? And really enjoy that journey and that part of it versus looking ahead at the destination. Right?
Absolutely, man. And I know we're in a world and that times are different and things are competitive and it's a whole different landscape than I was there. But I do think there's a human element of go to prom, go to homecoming with your buddies, go to the pep rallies, play different sports. I give anything to get another at bat versus live pitching. I played football, baseball, and basketball. I was very fortunate enough to play 3 sports at Humble High School. But, I learned so much from being, a rotational pitcher on our team. We had a pitcher go to Rice who was awesome, who was our ace, and I was our 3rd or 4th pitcher. There's some games I didn't start as a hitter, but like I became a better teammate in football from those moments I spent on the baseball team as, an above average, role player, and same thing with basketball and those other sports, man. So just if I could go back to myself, then I would say cherish those moments even more because you grow up, you play all the sports and another season rolls around, you play it. And next thing you know, I love focusing on football and I love my time at A&M, but it's like, man, I didn't really fathom the fact that as much as I played baseball my whole life, that once we lost in that playoff game, that was the last time I'd ever really take a competitive baseball rep, And so if I could talk to high school kids, man, just cherish every part of it. Cherish the time you spend with your friends because I do think the high school experience is special, let alone the high school football experience.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. And so I think back to your high school journey, right? I think we didn't see you in high school, I want to say, because you were playing so many sports, right? Like you didn't come to an Elite 11 Region 1 in your high school, right?
I did not know. So I was diehard baseball and basketball all growing up. As a kid who was a coach's son in Texas who pitched, you take the coach's son who could pitch and you put him at quarterback, And so basketball was what I thought was my ticket, And so I played for a Nike EYBL team, the Houston Hoops, and traveled the country doing the whole basketball circuit thing. And so I didn't do many, football regionals or kind of the football at the time. I think it was the Nike Spark camps and whatnot. But I went to a football powerhouse high school and I played at my high school. And there was one day that as a sophomore, even though I was a starting receiver as a sophomore, I think our quarterback was sick or missed for some reason. And I was there and we had probably 10 or 12 schools at our school. And I played quarterback the whole day. And I think I just lit up 7-on-7. And then they invited me up to an A&M camp to throw in person, and I did it again. And I got my first offer to play quarterback my sophomore year, when I was playing receiver at the high school, And so my journey, I guess, was a little bit different. It wasn't until my senior year we actually played Kevin Durant in Vegas at the Nike Invitational and in the semifinals of the tournament. And he dropped 47 on us, and I think I probably caught about 36 of those at the top of our 1-3-1 zone. And I vividly remember calling my dad and being like, you know what, I'm a quarterback. I just played against this guy, man. And I think I don't know how many points I scored, but I just couldn't get the image of him being 6'10", shooting threes from 35 feet out, and putting up those points where I was like, you know what, I'm a quarterback because there's guys out there like that. Football's probably my ticket. And that's really when I started to focus on football, and that kind of led up to college.
So you got KD to thank for where you are now, as well as all the other people that played a big part in your life, right?
Yeah, just put me on the list of people who caught a 40 spot from it.
Yeah, it's not a short list, I'm sure. So we really got to know you, I think, starting in 2010, right? You came out, you were a college counselor at Elite 11, something that we love doing every year at the finals. And, maybe it gets a little more spotlight now and things like that with NIL and social media. But I think back in 2010, right, it felt like it was kind of way more under the radar. And Elite 11, we were doing it at a different spot down in Orange County, right, at this small college called SoCa. So, talk about that kind of first experience where you got to interact with the event, the dorms. From my recollection, it was a great group of counselors that we had that year that you got to be a part of, and just a little bit of that kind of experience and first time coming out and being a part of it.
Yeah, so for me, I just remember that I always wanted to be at Elite 11, and I didn't. Because of basketball and stuff, I watched the documentary. I think I watched one of the documentaries with Bobby Reed, I believe. He's like a Houston legend, He's a couple years older than me. And so I remember watching him go through that whole process on the documentary. So I always knew what it was. So when I got the invite to come back as a counselor, going into my senior at A&M, I was thrilled just to be a part of it, but the chance to fly out to LA, be in California and just meet the other quarterbacks and compete a little bit and help and mentor and just kind of, I think the first way it was described to me was like it was football. It was quarterback or football heaven, just as far as like for 3 or 4 straight. I think I forgot how many days it was, but just to focus on the position, to share stories, to mentor the young guys. I think Jeff Driscoll and Teddy Bridgewater, I think were 2 of the guys in that were high school quarterbacks when we were counselors, and just to meet the other college quarterbacks because social media wasn't as big back then. And so to see those guys on TV and get to be around them and hang out with Kirk and Blaine and Andy and some of those guys, it was really cool. For me, it was surreal, because I always wanted to be a part of it and got an opportunity to kind of be around it. And that's when I really, for me, found out how special Elite 11 was and just kind of the fraternity it is, because my favorite thing was the dinners. I remember I sat and talked to Andy Bark at dinner for, an hour or so and just talking to the guys. And there's just nothing like getting to fraternize with guys who are going through the same thing you're going through, because you can't get in circles or you get to positions where there's just not that many people who are truly going through what you're going through, and people understand, but just to truly talk to somebody else that's playing at a high level at another major university to where, you threw 3 picks on TV too and got booed. Yeah, me too. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's one of those deals, man. So that's when I really kind of got introduced to Elite 11, man. I'm still thankful for that opportunity to go out there, man, because I think it set the course to meet you and, all the staff and everybody. At that time, I had no clue how much it'd be a part of my life, but I'm super thankful for it. And I still think back to that time, and man, that was just the start of something that was really positive. And, it's kind of when I really felt the soul of what Elite 11 is in its kind of most infant state as it did grow and has grown over the years. Was like, man, this is really special, man. And especially for the quarterback position. And at the time, I really needed people to be around. I knew I was going through a shoulder injury going into my senior year at the time. And so I had a lot of questions about throwing motions and doctors and all kinds of stuff because, people didn't know it at the time when I was there, but I was kind of in a dark place, because for the first time in my life, the thing that kind of was my go-to was my arm strength and my ability to throw the ball wasn't there, and I knew I didn't feel right, but I was hoping to seek out answers, and I got some of those. And so, but just having those relationships really did help me kind of, go through a lot of that.
Yeah. And I mean, that shoulder injury that was coming off the 2009 season, right? That really kind of changed the trajectory of your career, obviously looking back. Right. And to your point, the arm strength and mechanics, you really had to change the way you threw the football. Right.
Yeah. And it really did. And the reality of the situation, it really affected a lot of things. For the first time, doubt creeped into my mind. For the first time, I had to use some self-talk. The first time I really had some honestly major failure in sports. Up until that point, I was pretty athletic, pretty successful. And, to go into my senior year with a lot of preseason accolades and a lot of, stripes on the wall and records and all the things I had at A&M to, essentially have a pretty rough senior year. I didn't play well. I was hurt, but I also didn't play well either. So there's a lot of reasons why I ended up getting pulled my senior year. Which led to going undrafted, and, my draft stock plummeted, and it was a lot, it was a lot for me physically. It was a lot for me mentally. And the worst part about it wasn't even so much the perceived money that I lost from dropping my draft stock, what I was projected. It was, I love throwing the football. I love the craft of the quarterback position. And I personally felt for the first time that I don't know if I can do this at the level that I've done it my entire life at the time I need to do it the most, and so that was a tough pill to swallow when you're trying to go beat other teams and why everything's public and, the expectations are really, really high. And so that was it was a rough year of my life, and so, but at the end of the day, God has a plan, and a lot of me going through that are the reason that I'm sitting in this chair right now, as a quarterback coach in the NFL, because that kind of set off the next course of learning mechanics to try to get a shot to play in the NFL, to learning what the quarterback training space was, to playing on all those NFL teams and the UFL teams and the Canadian teams and the relationships, and all that is a big reason why I'm here today. So at the time, I didn't really understand it, and I don't know if I ever exactly will, but it's my story, and it was what was meant for me. And, I look back on it, and, I'm thankful for it because it's made me who I am.
Yeah, I got to imagine you learned a ton about yourself, right, during that time. And as you kind of came to grips with like, hey, I can't play the way that I always knew I could, and some of the gifts that you had, weren't weren't necessarily there anymore. How did you, and obviously you kept playing, you played for another 6 years, through that and battling through and probably becoming more of a cerebral player, right? And less relying on your physical gifts. How did you kind of handle that of still chasing the dream and pursuing the NFL, but then also starting to think about, getting to coaching as the eventual destination? Because you were the son of a coach, right? So I'm sure it was something you always thought about a little bit, but how did you kind of juxtapose that chasing the dream as a player with starting to think about the next step and stage in terms of potentially transitioning into coaching?
It's really hard, and that's why, like, as of right now, I'm so glad the XFL and the USFL and the other leagues are popping up because, you're stuck in a rock and a hard place, So I came on my draft year was the lockout year. I signed with the Eagles, the dream team year, and I ended up getting let go from the Eagles, signed a shoulder waiver, and, I essentially was let go because either I wasn't very good or my shoulder was still messed up. But I go from being preseason Big 12 player of the year before to now expecting to go drafted pretty high to, a year later, I'm back at my mom's house in Humble. Like, now what? Do I take a regular salary job, and I'm like, no, I can't do that because I still feel like I have a gift if I can get right, and so, you go your whole time, you got to have a backup plan. You got to have an education. You got to have what you want to do, So my late father, Larry Johnson, was a high school coach. And so I knew I wanted to be a coach. It's what my family does. My brother Marquise is a coach. My mom coached and taught. So I knew that's what I wanted to do. It just in my head, it was just like, not yet. Like I didn't expect to be staring this, I didn't expect to be sitting here this quickly. I expect to be, getting drafted on a roster, ready to try to go compete to lead a franchise. At the time, I probably couldn't play catch for 35 yards straight and throw a spiral. And so I actually moved to Dallas. Kevin Murray called me, Kyler Murray's dad, who actually, knew my dad. And, I met him through Jeff Fuller, one of my teammates, and his dad, Jeff Fuller Sr., who played for the 49ers, lived in Dallas. And Kevin called me and was like, look, man, like, your throwing motion's jacked up. And not only the way he can say it, he's very honest and did not hold any punches back on what he thought of my throwing motion. He was 100% right, And so I moved to Dallas. I was an elementary school PE teacher for 8 months at Wesley Prep. It's a private school in Dallas. And so when I showed up after lunch and in the mornings, it was relearning to throw a football from scratch like I was an elementary school kid. I'm talking put the ball up against the wall, get all the little tricks of the trade. And that's when I really got introduced to quarterback training. And for 8 months, I relearned to throw a football from scratch like a child, and so, but I learned mechanics. I learned that my feet have to be in the right spot. I learned my knees have to be bent the right way because up until that point, I was just a big kid who slung the football and hoped that good things happen, and so that's ultimately why my shoulder went out. But yeah, so that kind of led me on that journey of chasing playing in the NFL. And I just felt that I knew I had a talent. I knew I had ability, and I was just constantly chasing, knowing that I know that I'm the guy that I've always been, but can I prove it again? And, I had some shots at it, and it didn't exactly go my way. But at the same time, every time you get released, you have to find something to do, right? You got to pay the bills. You got to figure out something. And that's what kind of got me into the quarterback training space. And so I started my own business in Houston doing private quarterback training. And that's kind of when I reconnected with you guys up in Dallas. I think I may have been training up in Dallas when the regional came through at Cowboy Stadium. Just when I connected with Trent. And I hopped in and started coaching the drill, man. And honestly, it was exhilarating for me, because I felt that I kind of was just mimicking what I had been doing, but then being able to watch and diagnose other players going through similar younger players with throwing motion mechanics, my first time to be able to evaluate somebody and be like, man, like, the ball can be held a little bit higher. Keep your front side closed, all those different little things that I was learning. I was now sharing that. And I think that's the greatest thing about coaching is taking information that you learned to learn your journey to help a younger player and to watch them have success from the information you gave them. That's why you coach, And so It was just back and forth for about, I can't remember the years of, when I wasn't on the team, I was coaching. And that kept me around the game. It kept me, my mind sharp. And then the moment the phone rang, I dropped everything, hopped on a plane, and I was, battling out at a training camp.
No, I think, and we were the benefactors of that for a couple of years, because I remember it was almost like great timing. We get you in the spring, kind of before OTAs started and that sort of stuff, and especially the first couple of years we were getting you, and then then the finals would also fall like usually typically after mini camps and things like that. So it really worked out great, and we were fired up to have you because you're still in the game, right? It's as current and as relevant as it gets, and being able to match that with guys that are out of it now, like a Trent, and Jordan Palmer and some of those guys. We get the best of both worlds in terms of guys that have been in the private coaching space for a while, but then also you're in NFL training camps, a couple weeks before, and then you're with us. It was amazing for us, and like you said, it was great to reconnect for both sides. And you got a chance to be a part of some really great groups of Elite 11 finals, and really guys that are starting to become the face of the NFL right now. But looking back at kind of some of those big Elite 11 finals events you worked in, you were up there when it was at the opening at Nike too, and really I think kind of the biggest stage of high school football. There's so much going on, right? And you feel like there's so much in those quarterbacks' heads when they come to events like that. What's maybe one thing you wish every quarterback would know, looking back on your experiences coming into the Elite 11 finals, in terms of how to prepare, in order to take kind of the most away from the event when they come out and get a chance to participate?
I just think it's an opportunity for growth, because there's a couple things that happen. And I think it's whenever you go somewhere where you're going to, because everybody's talented until you get to somewhere where the people are just as talented as you are, and so it's a great opportunity. It's like a litmus test for you. Some guys go in and they're really talented and they get there and they're better than everybody when they're there and they have a really successful time, and you leave knowing, what, I'm pretty dang good at this. If I got to stay ahead. Some guys go and it's up and down, and maybe you finish, not exactly as high as you want, but you have some good days. And it's like, what, I'm just as good as now I got to know I got to perform. I have to get my mental space. I was a little nervous. It was the first time there's a little, there's a little more thinking involved, or a little more emotion, a little more the stakes are a little bit higher, to where I have to find something within myself to peak perform in the moment when that opportunity is given. Or you go up there and you realize that there's a whole lot of guys that are really, really good out there that I have to get significantly better. But anyway it goes, it's all positive, because at the end of the day, especially if you get to Elite 11 finals, you're going to get an opportunity to play college football. You're going to play at the next level. It's just how you approach the experience. Do you take the information? Do you build the relationships? Do you truly give it your all, in a sense, to try to challenge yourself and just kind of see where the chips fall? And it's just a little peek into your future. And that's the coolest thing about it. I mean, it's a peek into your future, right? And that day in that camp, as special as it is, as prestigious as the title is, there's so much more ahead of you, it's just what's important to you at that point in your life. But as you go on, you can be the last kid who finishes in Elite 11 and go on to be a top draft. Nobody can put a limit on your growth, but the value that you can't, as you get older, you need to hunt opportunities to feel uncomfortable. You need to hunt opportunities to challenge yourself, to really see where you stand, because that's you want honesty, you want self-awareness, and there's no better feedback than challenging yourself amongst the best at your craft, and there's all positives regardless of how it comes out for you.
Love it. And like you said, we've got a chance to see some guys have great successes, and really that's the start of, we see just confidence and their vision almost change of what they kind of think of themselves, right? And then, like you said, we've also seen guys respond from failure, and obviously it's a small, like you said, it's one step up the ladder in their journey, and you can learn as much from a challenging experience, obviously, and embracing failure as you can from everybody patting on your back and telling you how great you are. Let's talk real quick about Elite 11 guys, like we talked about, that are in the NFL tearing it up right now. I'll give you a name, and kind of just tell a quick memory or recall you have of them going through the process, whether seeing them at a regional or they might have been on your 7-on-7 team at the finals and that sort of stuff. And I'll start with a guy that has been super relevant and current. We just saw him quarterbacking in the Super Bowl. What's your recall of Jalen Hurts? We had him both as a finalist, and I think he was a 2-time counselor as well at the Elite 11 finals.
I mean, he's just a special human being. He is somebody that, of course, I was familiar with him coming from Houston, and, he was all-world in Houston and had the Alabama offer. And you just watched him, and you watched his thirst for knowledge and his want to get better, and he had a will about him to where he was, no matter that, he was not going to be denied, and I just remember him at the 11 finals, and a lot of the pro-style concepts were asking him to do at the time, because that was one of the ways you have to separate, at that level. Let's give them the NFL playbooks when they're 17, right? So if you've never been under center, you've never taken a 7-step drop, it's kind of difficult to kind of thrive in that setting, but I do know he always wanted to hop in line first. He always wanted another rep. He always asked questions, and he just dove into it. And it was one of those deals where he was a force of a personality. And so to watch, and then that's the cool thing to meet people at 17, because it's like you do kind of get a basis of who they are, and they're, I think, in their most raw state as a 17-year-old, as they're about to make changes. It's not the end all be all like can happen in college. But the one thing the intensity of which he attacked every day is a testament to who he is as a person and, the man he's grown into, because you watch it, and then to follow him through his college career and just to watch the adversity that he's been through and the doubters and what people say about him. For him, he always comes out on top, and he's just a person that you're never going to count out, because he's just got something that's uniquely innate in him that comes out in the field. He produces, he performs, and he leads. And that's, I don't know what more you can ask from a quarterback than a guy who does those things, man. So my hat's off to him and the utmost respect. But I remember him being at 17, doing some of the pro style stuff. He just hadn't done it. And why would you have done it in high school? He was crushing the state of Texas to run his offense at his high school, but to see him see the challenge, attack the challenge, struggle with it a little bit, but then get significantly better each day. And then to look where he is now, he's gotten better every single day. And now he's one of the top players in the NFL.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that in the last, I think we saw him in 2015. In the last 10 years, there's probably not a guy like Jalen Hurts who takes a weakness or something he hasn't done yet and will work tirelessly then to make that into a strength, right? Like that's just his approach, and it's so impressive, because he was young too when he came to the finals. I think he was only 17 still, and that maturity, instilled, I think, again, another son of a coach, right? Mm-hmm. And from your area, like you said, just so impressive at that age. Let's talk about Tua. In 2016, we had Tua at the Elite 11 finals.
Yeah, so I just remember, I had my team, and I think we had already lost or something, and so I knew he was having a good day. But when he got to the finals, and I just watched how he delivered the football on time. I don't know what the numbers were, but it seemed like the ball didn't touch the ground for the semifinals or the finals game. And I heard all the coaches talking about, like, you got to watch this guy, but I really just watched how the guys galvanized around him. George always says customer service, and just the accuracy of which he was throwing the football, where it's creating catch and run. And then it felt like a tidal wave, man. And we're like, the momentum was rolling and he was leading the charge, and I'll never forget, he stopped, and I think he prayed with his whole team, and everything. It felt like the whole place went silent. And I just will never, that memory of him standing there and the way that his teammates respected him, and just, that was the thing for me. It's just, one, how accurate he was, and literally the ball never touched the ground. But two, just how his teammates responded to him, and he was unapologetically himself, and there's guys from all over, a kid from Hawaii, and I think a lot of the kids on his team were from South Florida and Alabama and all over the country. And he found a way to connect. He found a way to lead those guys, and it was special to see from a distance.
Yeah, Tua put on a show in 2016 like we had really never seen before in that, especially at the 7-on-7 at the opening, until the next year in 2017, we had a quarterback who was coached by Jerrod Johnson named Justin Fields, who absolutely blew it away. I don't have the stats off the tip. I'm pretty sure he didn't even throw an interception in the whole 7-on-7, and you guys won the title, and he took the MVP. Talk about your recall of Justin Fields in 2017. It
was a similar deal. For me, the moment for him was there was a dance contest, and I think Odell showed up at the Nike complex, and there was a dance contest or something. Every team had to send out somebody to represent them. And, Justin's pretty intense. He's a cool dude, Justin, being himself. And he just kind of quietly walked out there and crushed it. And that was just a surprise for me to see it. But it was a competition, and he wanted to compete. And so that was kind of the start of it for us, And once he did that, the guys, they knew who he was. And I think there's something to be said about today's world with the social media and everything, about guys, being ranked really, really high, and the expectation for them to do it, and them living up to those expectations, And so it made my job real easy. So he was a great thrower of the football. He studied the playbook. He knew where to go with the ball. His feet and eyes were in the right spot, and he just caught fire, and it was really fun to coach.
Yeah, it was so impressive, because everybody knew he was 6'3", 220, and ran a 4.5, and great baseball player too. Like, again, back to the multi-sport thing, but the way you guys connected, and the way he just played and led that team through the 7-on-7 tournament was remarkable. And that year was all about Justin and Trevor, both from Georgia. Trevor Lawrence, of course, in the class of 2018 at the 2017 finals, and you guys got a chance to play against Trevor's team a couple times. You also saw him at the regional. What's your recall of high school version of Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, I think the first time I saw him, we were on the tour in Georgia, and I think he wasn't eligible to go to the finals because he was too young.
Rising junior, maybe, year before.
And I forgot and I remember we were meeting up like we always do. Everybody goes to the stations and whatever, and it's like, all right, what's the list of guys? I said, I don't know who else is out here, but that dude right there is different. I was like, I don't know how old he is. I don't know. He's not on this list to go to the finals, but he's better than everybody. We all kind of chuckled about it, but that was my first time seeing him. And little did I know that it was, a young, Trevor Lawrence, but he was just physically impressive. But with him and Justin and Trevor, to be so polished and to be so mature and to have their head on straight, I think it's a testament to their families. They were great kids. I think they handled the process well. And just to be around them at 17 and to see, once again, to follow that success, but they were dudes at 17 and it never stopped. The momentum just kept going, and so it was cool to see those guys at that age, like I said, because, I don't think people inherently change that much, but and some do, college can change a lot of people, but it was cool to see them at that age because and seeing them having fun in their purest state, just having fun as a 17-year-old high school kid, 17, 18-year-old high school kid throwing the ball around. But just they had a level of maturity and physical gifts that it's just very uncommon to see at that age.
Yeah, amazing synopsis of it. And like you said, some guys, you see them and as long as they don't do something silly off the field or get diverted off that path, they have gifts that are so evident early on. And you can sometimes spot a franchise quarterback when they're 16 years old if you're looking in the right place, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, like it is what it is, and it's you can't. So,
yep.
Sometimes.
So let's talk about your journey, kind of last 5 years as you've pursued and really gotten in and grown through the coaching tree at the NFL level. I think there's a lot of people that are going to be listening to the podcast that will get a lot out of kind of hearing about how, as an ex-quarterback, you successfully have transitioned in and kind of put in your time right, and now are getting a chance to lead your own room there in Houston. But starting in Indy, from Minnesota to Houston, tell us kind of how you got that spot at Indianapolis and some of the people that were, big influences as you were able to learn in that room in the NFL and now grow into having your own room in Houston.
Yeah. So, I was, last camp I was in, I think I was with the Cowboys for one day after I got released from the Ravens in 2016. And then after I got released from the Cowboys, I kind of figured I probably wasn't going to get another opportunity. And it was the first time reality-wise, okay, what do I want to do with my career? And so my plan was to go back to Houston, keep running my business, dive deeper into the combine training and doing the quarterback prep stuff. I took a job at Houston St. Thomas High School as an offensive coordinator because I'd helped St. Thomas before that, but I could never really fully commit to being there year round that a coordinator position would do, because if a team called, I was out. Yeah. And so took the offensive coordinator job there, and it was an opportunity to run my own offense. And so I learned so much from coaching high school football. As a son of a high school football coach, I'm so thankful for high school football coaches. I mean, from bringing the footballs to helping with jerseys, all those different things.
You guys had turf, so you didn't have to line the
We definitely had turf. It's a great campus. It's a great campus. We had great facilities and we had great kids, but it was my opportunity to run my own offense. As you play your whole life, man, I can't wait till I can call it and run my offense. And I learned a whole lot about coaching. It's not about what I know, it's what the players can do. So coming in with all these NFL concepts and ways we're going to run the ball and RPOs and all those other things, and realizing, okay, it's up to me to be a teacher. So I think I learned how to teach at St. Thomas, because the transition from the training space of what's best for the individual to what's best for the team is not the same thing, and so that's kind of what I learned a lot at coaching at St. Thomas. And so in the spring, I was doing combine prep as well. And so I was training a quarterback out of Tulane for his pro day, and I was running Jonathan Banks, and I was running his pro day at Tulane. And a scout saw me and kind of got my name to Chris Ballard. So little did I know that Frank Reich and Chris Ballard were looking for a spot to fill. The NFL came out with some different programs where they could offer a minority internship, preferably somebody with a quarterback background. And I remember the scout was like, I didn't know you were coaching. I was like, well, I mean, I'm coaching because nobody's called me. So, I mean, you haven't called me to play, so I got to figure out something to do, And so once my name kind of got around Chris, I got a call from Jim Caldwell, and we had a long conversation about football and just career paths and what it's going to take and what the obligations are as a coach and just if I'd be interested in it. And so I was like, you know what? I was looking for something to push me in that direction of diving into coaching at that level. And it was like, you know what? The phone's not going to ring. You got to move on. And it was a great opportunity. And so I flew up to Indianapolis and I met with Chris Ballard, and then I met with Frank Reich and said, look, we can't pay you much money. It's a year-long internship. We don't exactly know what you're going to be doing. but we have an opportunity for you. And if you'd like it, to join our staff and just find a way to help. And so I said yes. And for me, I'm so thankful for that moment, because not only the people that I met and I got to work for great coaches, but I really learned the profession of coaching. So all the NFL teams I played, I knew scheme, right? Not at the level that I learned while I was my 3 years there, but I learned the profession coaching, how much effort goes into a practice, okay, and how you can find value when you're not actually putting your hands on the player. So as an intern, you don't get to, as much as I wanted to go coach the quarterbacks and talk to, and help coach Phillip Rivers and those different things, my responsibility is to do breakdowns, to scout team cards, to do coverages and data entry, to help script, to essentially whatever at the time Nick Sirianni wanted. I was kind of there to just kind of help our offensive staff, whatever coach needed to do something, print, coffee, whatever was needed, I did, and so beyond, it was humbling. It was extremely humbling to go from running my own business and being on the documentaries and kind of being in this, getting all the sweet Nike gear and all different things, to being at the office real late at night, studying my cards to make sure that I drew the right scout team cards as I was running the scout team the next day. And but I will say this, I learned the profession and a respect for what coaches do, because a lot of coaching is not as glamorous as what's on the grass or what's on TV. Most of our hours are spent on a computer, first off, in a room by yourself, late at night, long hours, where you're just hoping for that edge that you can find from watching another hour of tape. And just sitting in those meeting rooms and conversation with the coaching staff for the Colts for that first year was like, you know what, this is what I want to devote my life to. I like the training space. I love being around quarterbacks. I still love training quarterbacks. I still love high school football. I still love football in its in its purest state, because there's something pure about high school football. But for me, it really just came down to, this is what I want to do, because for me, to be in rooms with people that had more experience than me, who had different ideas, who had been lifelong coaches, to just sit in those rooms and hear them talk football and scheme and run game and technique and the detail. I always loved it as a player, but even more so as an adult. It's like, you know what? There's so many great people in this room. There's so much good information. This is where I want to be. And so that led to me the next year getting officially quality control and being in the receiver room, of which I essentially did the same things, but every year I got a little more voice. I could present ideas. I could, at that point I started taking ideas I learned from them and then ideas I got from other places I played, and I put together a cut up, and maybe I would get one thought in that may make it to the game plan. You know what I'm saying? But it was one of those deals where I learned the profession. And at that point, I was really, in the receiver room working with Mike Groh, and he was awesome. And Kevin Patullo was the receiver coach as well, and working on Nick Sirianni and Marcus Brady and a lot of these names of guys who are Frank Reich, and all these guys. I can't say enough about them allowing me to be there and learn from them. And then, I kind of connected with Kevin through Trent and through Elite 11 and our agents. Just over time, we really connected and talked ball a little bit when we saw each other, man. And he said, look, I have an opportunity to get you in the quarterback room. And for me, that's, ultimately I love the position. That's what I want to do and aspire to do. And opportunity presented itself when he got a head coaching job, and I went to Minnesota, and it was the same deal, to where you get to be around. The best part of what I love about coaching the NFL is the staffs. Everybody's got in there some kind of way. Everybody has a unique journey. Yeah. A lot of guys have playing journeys. A lot of guys have coaching journeys, right? A lot of guys never played the game. So for a guy who never played the game, end up coaching in the NFL, you actually have a lot of respect for those guys, because how they got there is uniquely different than how I got there. But we're both in the same meeting room, and they're competent and they're qualified. And so it's like, how can I learn from them? And so to me, to this day, I love the conversations. I love hearing offensive line coaches talk run play. I love hearing, even sitting with the defense and them talking about defensive scheme. To me, that is why you don't mind the hours, because you're always stimulated. You're always challenged. And we ran a completely different system in Minnesota, and Kevin brought a completely different way of playing the game. I learned a lot from him. And you learn a lot from the players. You're dealing with grown men. You're dealing with guys. And I think you never lose sight of the fact that it's about the players. And so just the conversation with quarterbacks in the room, the conversation with the other coaches, and you're just constantly growing yourself while never forgetting the things you learn. I can't stress enough, I learned to teach at the same time as high school, and my kind of thought is, if I can teach a high school kid to do it, I should be able to teach a professional how to do it. And so, my time there, my experiences there, and our success in Minnesota led to the opportunity to interview for the Texans quarterback coach job. And here I am. So, I'm I'm a product of a whole lot of experiences. I'm a big believer that football is relative. It's where the talent level changes, but the responsibility, at the end of the day, fundamentally, the things that I was responsible for, and teaching, the pass game and inside zone and mesh and all those other concepts that we ran at St. Thomas High School, we're running probably a little souped up version of those in the NFL. And so I'm thankful for all those opportunities, but I do think it's given me a unique perspective to see the game at several different levels that, kind of it's my coaching style and what I'm confident in and my ability to, to coach and to train and to, help a player reach his max potential.
Yeah. It sounds like just 5 years of amazing personal growth and development with all the coaches you've gotten a chance to work with, and you can hear it in your voice. Like, if you love what you're doing, it's really not work, right? I see that coming out in the way you talk about the time you get to spend and like you said, behind the scenes and talking ball, learning ball, adding to your toolkit, right? As we like to say, so you're in this position now where you're ready for your room. But let's go back to last year really quick, because you talked about the guys that you're in the room with. How was it in terms of, because go back to 2010, you're a college counselor at Elite 11, and one of the other college counselors is Kirk Cousins. And now fast forward to 2022, this past season, you guys have an amazing year in Minnesota, right? Was it 13-4, playoff berth? What was it like with that young head coach, dynamic roster, Justin Jefferson putting up huge numbers and getting a chance to coach a guy who, 12 years before you guys were college quarterbacks hanging out together and going to the AVP in Hermosa Beach?
Yeah, I remember that, man. But no, it was Minnesota was awesome, man. I mean, our GM Kwesi, he's, they're building a great culture in Minnesota. Kevin came in from day one, full of energy, full of optimism, full of unique ideas, unique ways to play the game. And I think that was kind of what we had our edge. Wes Phillips, coordinator, Chris O'Hara was a quarterback coach. I mean, all those guys, Keenan McCardle, receiver coach. Like I said, I mean, it's a great staff, with great minds and great people. And I just think Kevin had it, at the top of it all, his way of looking at football from how we trained, how we practiced, all those different things, I think is unique. I think it was unique. I think it was fresh. And I think it was refreshing for Kirk, I mean, the testament to Kirk of who he is as a human being, who he is as a father, who he is, like his character, who he is as a person, follows suit to why he's a successful football player, and so when you respect somebody, the age and the fact that we are the same age and the fact that we were peers at one point and he's still playing in the NFL, you respect it because to be with him every single day, to watch how he prepares, to watch how much he cares, to watch how he interacts with his teammates. I mean, he's one of the best to ever do it. And that's just a fact, and so just to be around it every day, it challenges you as a coach because he's gonna take notes, he's gonna have questions. We got to find answers for him. Chris O'Hara did a really good job with that, and I helped where I could try to fit in there as well, and so but just a testament to Kirk. He's a great person, he's a great leader, and he had a really good year, and I think he was refreshed from just Kevin's unique way of thinking of the game was challenging to him, and to watch a veteran get a brand new offense. We put a whole lot on his plate, and to watch him go through his process of mastery was like a master class in watching somebody learn anything. His process of how he takes notes in his book, his process and he gets there at the office at a certain time of day to prep for that meeting and stays late. He has to get certain things by a certain time because it's all part of his process, his regimen with his body. I mean, just watching that and being around that is why he's had so much success. And for me, you can learn that to where, as I coach young quarterbacks, I told him this our last conversation, when I was thinking, kind of my goodbyes at Minnesota was like, look, I'm going to take a lot of what you did as the blueprint for if somebody doesn't have a plan, I'm going to pull out what I saw Kirk Cousins do and say, look, you wake up every morning, you should be doing this. This is your Monday through Sunday schedule to prep for an NFL game. And so it was cool to be around, So like I said, man, I think the best part about football is you can never lose sight of the fact that it's the people business. Point blank, whether it's coaches, you're coaching players, dealing with families, dealing with parents. And even from my end, from a coaching standpoint, I want to be surrounded by good people. I want to learn from good people. And Minnesota, there's a lot of good people in that building. And, I had a great experience. And the opportunity to Houston came. And that's one of the reasons, of course, it was an opportunity for me to come home. But yeah. I also think there's a lot of good people in the Texans building. And, D'Amico and Nick with their building and, Bobby, our coordinator, so I'm excited to see what our future holds in Houston. But, I think I've been very fortunate to be on staffs with really good people. And that's all you can ask for.
It's amazing, and like from our standpoint, it's a little bit different than seeing the high school kids come through, right, and then go on to college and have great success. You know, you're already a grown man when we got a chance to really start working with you a ton and get to know you so much better. But it's really no different when we see, you know, it flash through on Twitter or something like that, you know, Jerrod Johnson named quarterback coach of the Texans. Like you just feel that sense of you know, just pride that you were able to interact with such a like a great dude and be like a small little tiny part of their journey, but to see, you know, all the work you put in. Like you said, you were hustling, you had 3 or 4 jobs, you were still sort of playing, you were coming out and working regionals and, you know, off the radar places, you know, that we travel around to each week in the spring. So, you know, again, just appreciate the opportunity we got a chance to work with you guys out at the regionals, and then obviously just you giving us some time here tonight too, because I know you're busy and you guys are getting into an important part of the year that you know, you're not going to talk about a ton, but we're excited to see what the Texans do at the quarterback position in the next couple of months. So, but we just appreciate the time and appreciate obviously all the time that you gave us on the field with
I'd be remiss
if your best.
I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. I learned a lot about coaching my first year. I get to the opening, I got a team, and all the personalities. All these 5-star kids, all on the football. We didn't have a lot of success early. We figured it out. And so how do I get this person to touch? How do I get what's this quarterback's best throw? Like all the different dynamics of, although it was about 3 or 4 days, but with the top players, the egos, the talent, the pressure, the organizational skills, all those other things right there, you know, I still use those things right now. You know, and so just like as a player, as a coach, you want as many reps as you can, as many at-bats as you can of being in the fire, having to call a play to win a game, how am I going to install this? How am I going to grab my group to do walkthroughs in the hotel to install 25 pass plays that we got to do in 30 minutes? Like all those different things are a big part of this. So I thank you guys for giving me that opportunity, man. But yeah, I think it's exciting times right now. And, you know, at the process we're starting, and I guess we'll see where we end. We're just tipping the iceberg on our process, and we'll see where we end up. So
yeah, we'll get you on for part 2 after the draft maybe, and get a chance to download more on that, hopefully, as you guys are getting ready for training camp and loading up for hopefully a great year coming up in 2023 with the Texans. But no, JJ, just appreciate your time being able to hop on here. Maybe last thing I'll leave you with, we got the Elite 11 regional schedule coming out here in a little bit on our side, and you know, if there's one piece of advice, you know, you worked a ton of those in your day, you know, anywhere from LA to Orlando, right, and everywhere in between as we go out on that regional journey. You know, one piece of advice for a rising senior quarterback as he's looking at his offseason and getting ready to come out to a regional camp, what would you share with that young man?
I think your focus every single day is wake up and ask yourself the question, am I doing everything that it takes to be the best version of myself? Because if you are chasing being the best version of yourself, the circumstance or the setting doesn't matter. So when you walk into that regional, it's not about the guy to your left. It's not about the guy to your right. It's about the thumb pointed back at you. So if you're prepping to peak perform when needed be, you're prepping to be the best, to be your best when your best is required. And if that's the moment at that point in your life, hopefully you've done that. But that starts from you being better the next day than you were the previous day. You know, and so that way, when you get in those moments, you don't have to do anything more. Just be the best version of yourself. And that'll be good enough. You know, and if it's not, keep working until it is good enough. So that's what I got.
Love it. You were the best version of yourself tonight. Appreciate your time and fired up to see how everything unfolds for the Texans and the quarterback room moving forward. But thanks
awesome,
so much,
man.
JJ.
Awesome, man. Thank you guys for having me, man. I'm proudest member of the fraternity, man. So Elite 11 forever.